Hello, everyone. Welcome to CSM Mastermind. My name is Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker and our success coaching training program. We're back for our monthly live webcast today talking about building a personal brand. This free learning event is brought to you by Success Coaching, the global leader in customer success professional development training, now with more than 10,000 students globally. We just eclipsed that late last month. So pretty excited about that feat. Our virtual 3-day boot camps run monthly. Our 12-week live coaching cohorts start up again in February. We have an accredited online CSM certification program and a growing number of standalone courses, all taught by industry experts. You can find out more about our training programs at successcoaching.co, and Ashley is going to drop a link in the chat for that right now. For those of you new to this series, this is a live and unscripted discussion where we dig into a single topic that is relevant to customer success. This opening script right now is the only scripted element of the webinar. Everything else is a free-flowing exchange of information, ideas, stories, examples, and best practices. We aim to pick topics that are going to be practical and useful to the broader customer success community, so I encourage you to suggest topics or panelists for these events. We've also come up with our 2022 topics, and if you're interested in participating as a panelist, Ashley is also going to drop a link in the chat where you can express your interest and answer a survey for us. The schedule for our upcoming events can also be found at successcoaching.co. Click on the events tab at the top of the page to find out more. Our 2022 event should be up there shortly. As always, we'll post a replay of this webinar along with a transcription on our website early next week. Now, there's a lot of thought leadership out there along with a lot of theories about how to deliver customer success. The Mastermind series allows us to focus on the practical and give you real-world advice, best practices, techniques, and shared experiences from those out in the wild who are practicing customer success on a daily basis. And to do that, we invite 3 panelists to join me for a roundtable discussion. These are people who are great at their craft. We ask them to share their experiences and their perspectives. Now, this is a learning event, and it's a learning event for you, and we will be taking questions. So get ready to use that Q&A functionality at the bottom of your Zoom window to ask or upvote a question. We're also monitoring LinkedIn Live, so any questions posted will be relayed to us as well. Also, please remember to use the chat for commentary, not questions. Ashley will remind you as well. Without further ado, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves to y'all, talk a bit about who they are and what they do and who they work for. Let's get started as usual in alphabetical order with Bertil.
Thanks, Andrew. Very happy to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Bertil. I am a customer success executive located in San Francisco. I'm working for Better Cloud, who is a leading SaaS or SaaS management platform in the US. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertil. Cairo, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kai. I work for Cutback Coach. I'm the customer experience lead. In general, I lead customer success teams at early stage startups. And in my free time, I do career coaching with folks like yourself who are in tech or looking to start.
Thanks, Kai. I'm glad you guys are all correcting your name.
I love
while we're live. You didn't say anything before, but you do. That's cool. I can roll with it. And finally, apparently, is it Erica or is it Eric? No. Finally, Erica.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for having me here. I'm really excited to be sharing about my personal branding journey as well. I am Erika. I am a senior customer success manager at Condeco Software. We do workspace management technology and brand new CSM. Over the last year, I've talked about talking about people who are looking to transition into CS as part of the topics that I talked about. Thank you very much for having me here.
Excellent. Once again, we all appreciate your time today. Now let's get to the topic. A personal brand, much like a corporate brand, is who you are, what you know, what you stand for, and the values that you embrace. A personal brand can help you stand out as an individual. It helps to communicate the value you can bring to an organization and or a potential employer. In fact, 85% of hiring managers report that a job candidate's personal brand influenced their hiring decision. But beyond using your personal brand to land a new job, You can leverage your brand to bring more credibility to yourself and your company by demonstrating and communicating the knowledge you have of your domain, your expertise. Definitely a boost for achieving that trusted advisor status that everyone should be seeking with their customers. So to get us started, how does one start building their brand?
I can hop in on that one.
Please do.
When I'm working with my coaching clients, I usually start the exact same place, which is, what's your vision? And I mean that like externally and also internally. I think whenever we start a project, which building a brand is a project, you pick a goal. So you have to think about like, what do you want to accomplish? And I am a big fan of SMART goals, but you might be trying to get a new job. You might be trying to get a promotion. You might be trying to build thought leadership. And you have to think about what you want out of your brand before you start building it. And then externally, I think it's really good when you represent yourself to figure out like where you fit in the industry. When I was starting out, I talked a lot in interviews and at companies about bridging the gap between product and customer success and creating better communication, improving the processes, that sort of thing. And now years later, I'm more focused on helping early stage startups manage their customer relationship strategy. So you have to think about like, what are you trying to bring to the table? I really liked how you phrased what a brand is, Andrew. Like, what are you showing up with? And then also, what do you want?
What's your vision? Where do you fit? What do you want? It's kind of like building a success plan. What's your desired outcome? Right?
Goals, of course.
Exactly.
Part of this focus, one thing that I would love to add, and again, this is a topic that I love because I've been leveraging this topic as I was looking to a year ago to transit into my career and to pivot to the customer success space. And it's really, I think it's about the audience, part of the focus you have. Who are you looking to reach out to? And before even thinking of trying to pivot, trying to think of what type of a role you would like to have or type of company, I feel really strongly about giving to the community, joining a community, and before asking, giving to the community. And the community, we are in a wonderful position because the customer success community is really eager to share. You have access through Andrew's network, you have access to other communities such as Gain Grow Retain, which I'm part of. And this is something that before asking, I always encourage people to build a brand, to give back. We all have specific expertise, eager to share and make this personal brand something very personal and being very authentic.
And by the way, Gain Grow Retain is a great community. If you're not part of it, you've not heard of it, I'm part of it as well. As a matter of fact, I try and carve out every Thursday, although the last few weeks I've been absent, but I try and I've actually rescheduled my coaching calls on Thursday, so I have time to attend the Thursday morning calls. So it's definitely a important aspect of this.
And we always welcome your thoughts. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. Thanks, per deal. Erica, you got anything to add?
Yes, of course. So for me, one of the things that allowed me to start my journey was first following different sets of influencers in customer success, reading their content and going through what they were sharing. And that gave me the ability to reach back out, add value with my comments on their posts and figure out what were my interests and what were my passions, right? So for you to be able to start writing, you first need to figure out what spikes, what makes you vibe, what makes you passionate, and for you to be able to start talking about that. So it gets easier when you see how other people are doing it. So you start seeing what they're posting about and then making a list of the things that are important to you so you can then start writing about those topics and it becomes easier.
Awesome. So where to start? What's your vision? Where do you fit in? What do you want? Join a community and give back. Follow CS influencers so you begin to kind of shape the direction that you want to go in.
Yes.
So okay. So that's where to start. That's where you that's your foundational elements of beginning that. Do you have any sort of beyond that, any sort of methodology for launching a brand strategy? right? So let's say I've determined what my vision is. I've just determined my desired outcome. I've pretty much got my eyes set on a certain area of where I'm going to fit in, and I know what I want. I've joined a community. I've started to give back. I've begun to follow CS influencers, and that's kind of shaped some of those, some of my decisions and thoughts on those previous questions. So does it? Do I begin writing? Do I share? I mean, what's the right method? Because I can't believe it's a flip a switch and away you go. And Kai raised her finger first, so I'm going to let you go. You can raise the full hand, by the way, not just.
I don't want to interrupt you.
It's this finger. It's this finger, because if it's a different finger, then maybe I should leave the room.
I am going to leave the Zoom call. You're heckling me. I wanted to just support what Erica and Bertil had said about joining communities and following folks who already have strong brands. I think that's such an important key before you launch. And I think that you should launch in a way that's comfortable to you. If you don't like public speaking, don't do it. It's going to be disastrous. If you're not a good writer and you don't have time to learn writing skills, don't start there. If you love media and you're good at creating video content, do that. If you've got a lot of connections, and a podcast is a great way to give back to a community and give folks an opportunity to elevate their voice, do that. Partner with someone. Like, I don't think there's one right way, but I think like a really good, authentic brand stays true to you. And so you should not try to do what you think is right. You should do what feels right to you.
That's a great point. Actually, something we talked about, Kai, before you joined the call was how important it is for you to produce a brand that's really you. Don't fake it, right? It's so easy, because if you do and you get caught faking it, you can even more quickly destroy your brand than you built it up, right?
100. Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's also easy to maintain that, Andrew. It's not just about it's easier when you just speak your mind and be yourself instead of trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, right? When you're pretending, my feeling is just get even harder to build around that. So being yourself is really, really important. I agree.
And I would like to go back to what Karen and Erica just mentioned, just to add a few things. So I'm a fan of Marvel and all those superheroes. And so I always like to ask, what is your superpower? And we all have superpowers. For me, for example, I love data. I love digging into reading, but I'm not the best writer. But what I do really well is summarize what has been said, highlight specific content that I like to share with the community, encourage people to read specific books that I've been reading. And so this is my way to give back to the community. We all have time. But again, back to Karen and Erica's point about authenticity. This is key, and I'm going to use you, Andrew, as a kind of a guinea pig for that.
Okay.
So we started connecting a year ago. I'm following Andrew, being a thought leader in that space, and I had the opportunity to meet with Andrew during an event a couple of months ago.
SaaStr, yes.
Exactly. Yes.
It was great. It was great meeting you in person. We actually shook hands and had a drink together. It was awesome.
It's weird to see people's legs. Like, oh my gosh, you have legs. This is incredible. Like, you're not just a floating boat. So it was amazing. And one thing about personal brand and how important, to Erica and Carol's point, to carry your brand every day. It's not an outfit that you wear to look good on Zoom, on LinkedIn, and then you hang and you be someone else. And Andrew is the best example of that. When you meet Andrew in person, I didn't see the difference, apart from the legs that just appeared. I don't see the difference between an Andrew online and the Andrew in person. Is the same warm person who carry the same brand. So again, identify your superpowers, who you truly are, because the worst you can be, especially during this digital time, is to be an imposter and being seen as one when you meet in person. And once you have achieved your goal, set your next goal and keep building and growing your personal brand. To Carol's point, if podcast is your things, go ahead and do it as you're passionate about, because you're going to have followers.
And I'm so excited about folks who get to build a brand now when we're mostly working from home, because like you have no choice but to be yourself. We've all been very humbled by the pandemic. Like our kids are on the call, like our pets are in the background. We're in everybody's house. So why not be yourself?
Exactly.
I appreciate you calling that out, Bertil. Bertil. Because this is me. And this has always been me. If anything, in the wisdom that I've accumulated over the years is to have more of a filter sometimes, but yeah, you get me. This is what you get. I don't try and be anybody else. And that's so important. You can't, don't fake it. It's one thing to fake it till you make it when you're trying to understand a customer and understand, and give them a sense that you care about them, even though you might not yet. Right. So, but it's a different story when you're trying to build a personal brand, right? You can't fake it. So, so let's talk about, Kai mentioned, if you're not a good writer, don't jump into writing, for example. And honestly, I do a lot of content development in my job. And it's tough. It really is. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have any help. I definitely have gotten help before with that. But there's still other ways to build your brand without having to develop content or developing minimal content, right? So how critical is content development as part of your personal brand, and what alternatives can you fall back on if content development isn't your thing?
I can jump on that one.
Yeah, Erica, go ahead.
So for me, and talking a little bit about what you said earlier, just one thing that you need to bear in mind is I was not a writer before. Like I've never written articles or blog posts or LinkedIn posts for that matter. And the first thing for me was losing that fear of just being out there and putting myself out there, right? So that is that's kind of like the hardest part. Once you start writing and losing that fear, it gets easier. So for me, when I started my personal branding journey, sometimes I took the weekends to work on that because it took longer for me to write these posts and to share them, right? Especially when I was creating content such as infographics, for example. Those take time to develop, and sometimes having a specific time over the weekends where you can work on the content that you want to share and make sure that content adds value to your network. Adding value to your network is the most important part, right? So for me, when I started sharing all of these different sets of content articles, I started gaining more traction with my posts. I started seeing more people interact with my points of view and what I have to share. So for me, it was a really important part of building my brand. I'm not saying that it's absolutely necessary. You can build your brand in many different ways, like networking with people or making sure you add value with other people's content, right? But it is definitely something to consider. And just bear in mind that it's not easy at the beginning, but it gets easier with time.
Yeah, I think that's starting with, if you are doing that reading and you're reading about other influencers, you're reading articles, trade rags, things like that about customer success in general or your domain, sharing that with your opinion, right? Not just copying and pasting a link and throwing it on LinkedIn, but throwing something out there and saying, hey, you know what? Here's my perspective on this particular topic, and then attaching a call to action to that. What do you think? What's your perspective? I remember a couple of years ago, I did this. I threw out there this commentary based on an article about compensation, customer success compensation in this new age of the subscription economy. And I have a lot of people in my network. I have over 11,000 people in my network. And these are people that I either know or I've done business with or I've interviewed or what have you. And they cross the spectrum. So I got a lot of customer success folks in my network, got a lot of salespeople as well. And I threw something out there that really touched a nerve. And the engagement, and I was just expressing my opinion, but the engagement was huge. right? Because it was something, I threw something out there. It was somewhat controversial, right? But I gave my opinion and I asked people to weigh in, right? And that definitely kind of built, that was part of my brand building.
One thing I'm hearing a lot here is about content, is about telling a story. So that's something that's true to you.
Yeah.
And let me just add another layer of how important it is to be consistent. So I think today in a remote world, like your profile is your LinkedIn profile. It's how people will see you and how people will follow your Twitter profile, and making sure that your digital identity reflects your personal brand. Yeah. When it comes to to share a story and be consistent, I think people will associate you with up to 2 topics. It can be related to customer success and industry or anything else. And Andrew, please push back on me if you think this is not aligned with your vision. But I feel thank you. Being able to articulate maybe 2 topics and being seen as a leader around those 2 topics might be more valuable than spreading thin across multiple content. You want to be seen as, oh, I'm going to reach out to Andrew because he knows what customer success is about on this specific industry that I am looking to break in, and I'm going to follow this person. If I see Andrew having too many topics, I might lose track or being a little confused as what exactly Andrew is the thought leader of.
No, I actually agree with you on that. 100%. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. It gets difficult to keep up. And then you have to sit back and say to yourself, well, am I really a thought leader? If I'm spread so thin, I'm not really a thought leader. I'm not really building the type of brand that I'm looking for, because I'm spread across so many different topics. So there's no opportunity, right, to establish yourself because you're talking about so many different things. Sorry, is somebody going to jump in there? I got another. By the way, we have questions. We have a couple of questions that pop up. Actually, one just, I don't know what happened to the one that just got. What happened here? This question was answered live. No, it wasn't. Did somebody press a button? Did someone press a button that they shouldn't have pressed?
I was about to raise my hand, and I think.
Thank you for
I'm French. I'm French. I'm not very technical. Sorry about that. Sorry.
I'm French.
I was excited about this topic, and I wanted to share that. So,
well, hold on.
Go ahead. Can you bring it back to life?
I think I can put that. Yeah, we're not at questions yet, but we'll make sure to answer Francis's question. Okay. But anybody else who has questions, hopefully Bertil won't want to answer it and stick it in the answer tab before we're ready to. But I appreciate you being, owning that. By the way, before we get to that, though, I had a couple of other questions. I want to take a step back. When you're asking those questions of yourself, right, to figure out what your professional identity is. Have you ever done some sort of strengths, weakness assessment? Right? Hey, I want to be, because I've wanted to be a professional golfer for a long time, right? But I'm never going to get there because I just don't have a good stroke, right? So I realize that, and I am not going to become a professional golfer, right? So how do you do something to assess do you have some sort of assessment that you use to assess yourself?
I can jump in on that one. And let me know if you can hear me better. I think I switched my audio.
Yeah, no, I actually you're actually worse now.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Do you have some wired?
No, I took out my Bluetooth and supposedly I'd be using my computer audio, but if not, I'll just jump into my other Bluetooth, I guess.
I can hear you now. Just make sure you're keeping close to your microphone.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Let me know if you can hear me there. But talking about assessments and understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, I have taken 2 tests that I actually recommend highly. One of them is a 16 personalities test that sometimes it's difficult for us to understand what our personality is, and sometimes we are not seeing the way that we actually are. So the 16 personalities test allows you to better understand who you are and what you're good at, right? And then there's another test that I took, that's actually a Red Bull. It's a Red Bull assessment, which is called the Wing Finder, and I can share the link right now here on the chat. And this report highlights your strengths, highlights your weaknesses, so you can work and better understand how you can improve, and use this as well as to how you want to create your content and everything that you decide to share on LinkedIn as well. So it does help you figure out how to best share your experiences on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually have used we use the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment test as part of our management track that we'll be restarting here next year. So I think there are a couple of different formats, or I'm sorry, assessments out there that can help you with that. Sorry, Bertil, you had something?
Yes, as I was pivoting my career to a new industry and a new role that I'm passionate about, which is customer success and the whole SaaS ops space, I've been running a few tests, and to Erica's point, those are opportunities to open the box essentially and identify where you want to spend your time focusing, because we all have families, activities, work, and so you need to essentially manage your time like an entrepreneur. And we all have 24 hours a day. We all have a certain amount of energy that we can allocate, and it's important to prioritize those tasks. I'm just going to do a shout out to Carol's and other coaches in the US, because I've been working with a coach, and I found it extremely beneficial because it was an opportunity to be true to yourself, to someone who is here to help, not hide behind result as the best salesperson, but truly open up to someone, almost like a shrink. Just you open up to your coach and say, this is what I'm made of. This is the area I believe I want to work on. And my coach was able to identify and prioritize where I should spend my time. And that was extremely beneficial. As well, a coach, back to Francis' comment that I've deleted. Sorry, Francis. You're going to be able to identify the area where you need to improve to go after those goals. And again, to prioritize where you need to be and how you're looking to go after those goals.
Yes.
I just wanted to shout out like SWOT analyses, which I do with my clients a lot. I find those very useful. And then because I specifically work with women and gender nonconforming folks, I do a follow-up activity that is actually about like bragging. I think that a large part of like a large set of awkward moments in building a brand is having to talk about yourself. And like interviews make people very nervous. Like saying I'm good at this make people very nervous. So I think sometimes some people can be too focused on the things that they can't do and actually skip over the things that they're really good at. And then they have trouble like building a brand because they can't identify the places where they excel.
Yeah.
And I think Kai just made a really good point. It's understanding what you're good at, right? So it's easier to share. It's easier to share about the things that you know how work and your knowledge, and people react to that, and it helps you with your brand creation as well. So identifying all those things that you're good at and writing about that makes it easier.
Kai, you still there? We lost you. We lost your video.
I am here. I'm adjusting because the sunlight is moving.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So before we get to the questions, I got one last question for all three of you. What benefits have you seen since you started your personal branding efforts? Let's actually, and that was a great questionnaire. It was a question that Erica posed on our prep call worksheet. So Erica, why don't you start?
Sure, of course. So as far as the benefits go for building a personal brand, I guess the first thing that I would highlight is more people visiting your profile, of course, and more people commenting and sharing. That gives you more visibility. One of the things, and this takes me back to the reason I started my personal branding journey. At the time when I decided to start this, my goal was to land a customer success role because I was making a transition from other career, right? And I was having difficulty proving or explaining what I'm good at as a CSM and how I was able to fit to those roles. So once I started sharing my experience as a customer success manager, people started noticing that. So one of the other things that I saw as a benefit is hiring managers were reaching out to me. So before starting my personal brand, I was having a hard time applying to roles, getting hiring managers to call me and saying, hey, you have this interview. And fast forward 1 year later, now after I have a personal brand, I don't even have to apply for jobs. And I actually landed my role at Condeco because of my personal brand. So for me, being out there has given me an incredible boost to my career. I have landed better roles with better salaries, and I've connected with a ton of different people. Now I am connected with different CS leaders out there and building relationships as well. So remember that relationships are also part of your personal branding journey because those open new doors for new opportunities for learning additional things, and scheduling one-on-one calls with these people have allowed me to learn a lot more from customer success, which also gives me the opportunity to start sharing more about that on my same journey, right? So it's not like a circle there. More people view you, you connect with more people, then you have one-on-one calls with those people, and you actually build very strong relationships. So those are kind of like the highlights of what I've seen change after I decided to start my personal brand, and I believe anyone would benefit from doing that as well.
So it's had a benefit on your career.
Definitely,
significant career benefits, significant benefits with networking, meeting more people. Mm-hmm. Understanding more, establishing yourself as somebody who understands customer success. Bertil, what about you?
I have many goals: career, family, investment. The thing that I wake up every morning, the first things I have in mind is to be a better professional, a better person, and improve every day by only 1%. Learning one thing a day and having this 1% improvement and being a better person for my network, personal, family, and work. And essentially what the benefit from that is, originally I thought that being able to help people and share things was my original motivation. But my motivation became being able, and the benefit, being able to connect with other thought leaders, being able to justify someone's investment of 15 minutes, 30 minutes once in a while with you to ask your question. And I became so excited with the opportunity to connect with people like Andrew, me going after a large organization and being able to take 15 minutes and essentially to justify this investment of a VP, a CISO, of those 15 minutes with me answering my question and being able to be seen. This is to me the main benefit of being a thought leader, is growing your network, but not by adding more connection, by having a trusted relationship and being authentic with people.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love that. I love that. Kai, what about you?
I have to kind of agree with what everyone said. I think that for me, building my professional brand changed work for me entirely. I have met so many cool people. I get suggested for a lot of new opportunities. Definitely a lot more like leaders coming up to me and being like, "Hey, I want to work with you." and from time to time, I will sometimes consult early stage founders. And so they've found me through writing I've done on that topic. It's definitely made work more fun for me. It's given me like more direction, more clarity. I don't feel confused about what I should be doing at any given time in the year for myself or for a company. I think like we think a lot about branding when we're trying to get new opportunities, but a solid brand is a great guide for just like a code of conduct for your entire career. So like if you know what you set out to do, if you know what your vision is, then you're always chasing that. It really like adds to your purpose.
100%.
Yeah, and the personal branding for me was huge. It's been a huge part of our just the personal brand, the branding of our business, and the content development. But also my own personal branding's been had a huge impact on our business, on our product, on our customer base. We wouldn't have 10,000 students right now if they didn't believe that the people that were teaching them actually knew what they were talking about. So it's going to help you personally. It's going to help you professionally. Let's jump to some questions. We don't have many. I'm surprised, but let's jump into some questions. The first one we will get to your question. I promise, Francis. But Sydney was first. So Sydney, thanks for the question. Sydney asks, how focused should you be with your brand but still be your authentic self? For example, my interests, sustainability, aren't related to my job. Would you still pursue both, or would it muddle your branding or messaging?
I really differentiate for me between a professional brand and a personal brand. Like I have a professional Instagram, which is very different from my personal Instagram. So I think when you're building your professional brand, that is for your professional goals, you are not focused on your like personal interests unless you're looking to work, for a sustainability company. But if they're separate and you're kind of interested in other things professionally, then you want to be authentic within your professional self. Like it's not authenticity is not necessarily about showing up entirely all the time as like every single aspect of you. It's just about being honest when you're talking about things. So like one of the things I'll tell folks to do when they're redoing their resume is after a while, stop putting things on it that you don't want to do in future roles. Like if you were doing like a lot of admin work and you prefer like being on the phone and being in front of people, then like don't mention that you were doing admin work. It might be like a useful skill, but you'll continue to get pigeonholed into that. So I think you really have to sit down and figure out what you like to do professionally, what you're good at, and follow that and try not to confuse like your professional and personal brands.
Erica, Bertil, you got anything to add to that?
I have kind of like a different opinion. I'm not saying that you can't write about both. On my personal branding journey, I'm not always talking about customer success, or I also share personal experiences from time to time. It doesn't mean that you can't share about that, but I am with Guy on the sense that most of your content should be focused on your target audience, right? Whether you're customer success leaders or people who are trying to transition into customer success, or whoever your audience is, I'd say 80% of your content, it should be focused to your target audience. And then the other 20%, you can make a mix of who you are, your personal experiences, and try to link them back somehow to the work that you're doing. So it's not that you can't talk about it at all, but I would agree, talk more about your work experiences and add that 20% of personal experiences as well.
Anything to add, Bertil?
Yes, one thing, fun fact about personal branding is not about you. It's about your community. It's about your network. It's about your personal brand is really about the value added you can bring to a targeted audience. And this is not a social catwalk that you have on LinkedIn. You don't try to shine by sharing how much you know. There is a saying in French. It said knowledge is like jam. The less you have, the more you spread it on your toast. And so I know everything is related to France, to food in France. But my point here is, it's not because you know something. Yes, the least you have, when you're scrambling the last things, you spread it on your toast. The least you have, the more you spread it. Only it's not about yourself. It's not about what you know, who you know. It's about being accessible and being able to provide value-added content to the community by letting people reaching out, following you. And again, we all have many people in our networks who are the one who will see you as someone who can add value and help them, and being there when they need it, being really authentic. So back to Carol and Erica and yourself on this point, being really authentic and generous with your time, because the more you give, the more you receive, but you cannot start asking before providing.
I don't know, man. If I don't have enough jam, I just cut my toast in half.
That's smart, but then you end up to be quite hungry.
Well, no, because I want to enjoy what I'm eating. I'm a jam guy, by the way. But I have a LinkedIn profile. I have a LinkedIn network. I have a Facebook, and I'm not even on Facebook anymore. I'm barely on Facebook, but I have a network on Facebook, and there's very little crossover. And I may use personal experiences on LinkedIn to explain situations. I had one just the other day that I'm getting ready to write up that talks about my customer success-ish experience in a sandwich shop. Very personal experience, going and getting a sandwich for lunch. But it was impactful from a customer success perspective. So I think it's important that you're using those to explain something, to tell a story. People they're going to engage with you more when you've got a story to tell. And so I think that's that. So applying that personal aspect to that story, I think it's important. It's valuable, and it helps people relate. Right? We're always looking for ways in which we can convey what we're trying to convey in a way that people can relate to. Going out and buying a sandwich is something that everyone can relate to.
Exactly.
But then here, you see, you bring it up to another really important topic on personal branding, which is to humanize those processes.
Yes.
Like you are able to approachable, but you humanize your story about a specific topic as a thought leader.
Yes, super important. I talk, and this experience I had with my sandwich shop I'm going to start incorporating that in some of my coaching. Just like my experience with Dutch Brothers, which is a coffee place, which you wouldn't expect to be something that you would talk about in customer success, right? Is very relatable, and everybody can relate to getting coffee in the morning or something in the morning. Sydney, thank you for the question. And thank you all for your answers. Our next question comes from Frances, even though she's been moved to the answer tab. Thank you, Bertil. How does one build their brand not being part of the space? I'm currently not a CSM, but definitely one at heart. It's what I've done in every job before. I'm still learning so much and want to know more every day. I'm busy with level 1. Awesome. And know this is for me. Would documenting my journey be interesting enough to start my personal brand? What do you think, Bertil? Well, let's go with Bertil first, because he really wanted to jump in on this one.
Yes, I was really excited. So excited that, again, sorry, Francis, I removed your question, but this is something that is really close to my heart. And I love helping people on a side as a mentor and a coach. This is where I started. A year and a half ago, I was working for a research firm, and I was an account manager, and I became obsessed with the whole customer success space and the SaaS hub space. And I had to build a brand on what I am today based on where I want to be tomorrow and those goals. And I was building this brand with the help of this coach about really what I was looking to achieve and what I was reading. So even if you are not in a specific industry, even if you are not in a specific role, there is something, Francis, you can bring to the table that's going to add value to a community and help to open the door. Just the fact that you are so eager to move over, as we did, to customer success, being able to articulate your story and ask questions, being passionate about a space. This is related to personal brand. This tells a lot about you. Few people have the courage to make this move. And Francis, you doing it, and it's exciting.
And I love the idea, by the way, of documenting your journey, Francis, and what I think would be incredibly impactful is, you say that it's what you've done at every job before. So as part of that journey documentation, relate the things that you've done before to what you're learning about customer success. And you will help others in the process. And that will be part of your brand as you develop it.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to comment exactly what you just said right now. So just a little bit of an overview. That's exactly how I started my personal brand. I was new to the customer success phase. And I started writing about my own journey, right? Like the challenges that I was facing, I don't know, landing an interview, for example, or landing my first role, or any of the first activities that I did as a customer success manager. So I started writing about those challenges, and then saw that there were a lot more people who were struggling with the same things that I was. And those conversations get the connections going, and with that, it's definitely something that people are interested in, right? So it worked for me, so I'm sure it can work for everyone else, and I highly recommend you do document that, because that converts into something that someone else might benefit from, right? So I am all in for you to doing that.
Awesome. I wasn't laughing at you, Eric. I was laughing at Cairo losing the battle with her blinds in the sun. You just said, okay, I'm moving.
Oh yeah. I was like, F it. It's fine.
That's cool. That's all right. Hey, we got to know when to give in, right?
So one day that it's ever sunny in Seattle, it's here to ruin my day.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, Francis, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. All right. Our next question comes from, now we have a list of questions. This is great. Urea, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, Urea. What I find hard, and this has been upvoted 4 times here, so there are a few people who want to hear this. What I find hard when it's about establishing my brand as a CSM is me being more introvertic than extrovert. I love people. I love being helpful and contributing to my account's growth, but I'm not into posting regularly on LinkedIn, sharing content. And so while CSM are usually associated with extroversy, what about introverts? How can we fit in the image of a good CSM? How to build a brand of introvert CSM? Before you all jump in on this, I want to let you in on a little secret about me. I am not an extrovert. As a matter of fact, I straddle the line between introvert and extrovert. This was not something that I would be comfortable doing in the past. But I felt it was important. I felt it was important for our business. I felt it was important for our brand. And it was important enough for me to force me out of my comfort zone. But trust me when I tell you, I sometimes prefer sitting at home alone, doing my own thing, I'm not a big party person. I'm not good in front of large groups. Those of you that have met me and have seen me out there are like, yeah, BS, you are. But I'm telling you, I straddle the line between introvert and extrovert. So there's nothing that says you can't be both, by the way. It's not either or. So my 2 cents. Who wants to jump in on this for your read?
I would love to follow up, because I was going to say the same thing. I was like, I definitely don't identify as an extrovert. I love being by myself, and I'm not like a super huge fan of people, but I think I'm good at finding my own motivation. So whatever your motivation is, Bertil is obviously like super motivated by giving back. And if he were an introvert, it's possible that that's enough for him to ignore his own discomforts, find the right path, and do what he wants to do. I'm motivated by my own success, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want to provide like a good quality of life for myself. I want to be happy at work. I grew up thinking that you just couldn't do that. And so it's been amazing to find customer success and really enjoy it. So I'm really motivated by just like staying in the game and like meeting more folks who love what they do. and like being a part of the community, and then also helping other folks get into it. I think that customer success is such a great gateway into tech. And it's a really, really important business function. So I think, and also I was actually, my last team that I was on, almost all of us identified as introverts. So I think there's a lot of extroversion in the tasks that CSMs do, but I don't think that you as a person have to fundamentally be an extrovert. I think there's a lot of tools and technology nowadays. If if content, we're online, I find it hard to avoid producing content or like being somewhat public facing. I think it's hard to avoid that, but I think there's a lot of tools and like pathways to facilitate being present. Like maybe Andrew does more of the interviewing, so he talks the least on this call if he's not really into talking, and you don't have to always be the person who's interviewed. I think there's a lot of ways to make this work for you.
Gosh, damn it. Kai exposed me right there. That's it. She exposed my secret. Thanks, Kai. That's my superpower. Erica Bertil. Erica Bertil, you got anything to add?
I think that whatever you are, embrace it. It's part of your personal brand, it being authentic. There is as well something really exciting that has been happening for years now in our space, customer success, which is if you are looking to break into customer success, but you don't want to really interact with clients, you have an opportunity to join, let's say, customer success on the operation side. You can work with customer success to articulate, for example, what data the company, the employers is gathering around their own customers to make smarter decision, better decision for the team at the strategic level. So today, customer success embraces such a variety of different profile and different skills that there is something for you. And again, if like Andrew, you need to be in front of people to do your job. Acknowledge that, learn from it, make mistakes. My grandfather always say you're allowed to make any mistake as you want, as long as you make them once.
Yeah.
And so
you
embrace that.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Embrace it and just move forward. But again, this is part of the opportunity to work with someone like Kay, for example, as a coach, is to really understand your goals. Where do you want to be? And what set of skills do you have? And how comfortable are you to be outside of your comfort zone? How much are you ready to give up to get to your goals? And I think this is going back to what we discussed earlier around authenticity, goals, and back to you, Carol, about being smart with your goal.
And it's something that you should be willing and able to do for yourself, but it's also something that you need to be doing in this role with your customers. Right? We're helping our customers to achieve a desired outcome that's likely, in many cases, different than the way they've been doing things previously. Right? That whole change management concept of driving adoption is about getting people out of their kind of comfort zone and doing things differently. Right? So this is an exercise that you need to be good at anyways. So why not do it to yourself?
Yeah, so I completely agree with that, Andrew. I feel like if you're already a CSM, you're already going through these challenges, being an introvert, talking to customers. I feel it's the same thing when posting or when building your brand. You still have to do those activities. You still have to talk to customers, and you still have to overcome that part of your personality that makes you more introvert, I guess. I cannot speak to that because I am an extrovert. I like interacting with a lot of people, going out, and for me, it's something that's given, right? It's part of my personality as well. But that doesn't mean that I didn't struggle when I started, right? I was still afraid of what I wanted to post. I was still holding back, and not because I was an introvert, but because it's normal that when you're starting something new, you don't know how it's going to turn out, and you don't know what to expect, right? So my advice would be just lose that fear, get started. Start doing, I don't know, one-on-one conversations. Maybe if I don't know, recording a video or talking in public, it's hard. Well, just stick to the one-on-one conversations, right? Building one-by-one relationships, scheduling time with specific people or people that you're following that you might learn from, and start from there. And once you feel more comfortable with that, then you can get a little bit of push, additional push, and get a little bit further down that road. And it will feel more natural, I guess. I cannot promise anything, but what I can tell you is I feel like everyone has gone through that point where they're afraid of making a difference, right?
Yeah. Start small, little changes. Same thing when you're trying to, once again, when you change management principles, start small, little changes, build upon them.
I would recommend as well to do some research around those big CEOs in the tech space that are engineers. And I mean, we all remember 1995, Bill Gates on stage with the Rolling Stone, trying to actually connect with the audience, being and how uncomfortable Bill Gates at the time was. And he, at the time, as an engineer, he had to do a lot of work because his goal was to get his company where it is today. But to get there, he needed it to be the face of the company. And the journey is quite incredible. And you should do some research and see how they overcome their fear and comfort.
Awesome.
And it's all about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to be able to have uncomfortable conversations with your customers. So you better get comfortable with the uncomfortable anyways. Just a reminder, we do go till 15 minutes past the hour. If you have a question in the queue and you need to leave, this recording will be posted on the website early next week. Anna asks, what mistakes have you made on your personal branding journey? Any tips on things we should avoid? Thank you all for sharing your experience. I have one right out of the gate, just posting articles without providing any sort of content and perspective. That does not help you at all. You're just, I don't need to, people don't look at you as somebody that has an opinion. They look at you as a content aggregator. Anybody else have something to add to that?
Go ahead. Okay.
I have two things. One is what we talked about earlier, which is just going for methods that don't fit who you are as a person. I think it's just the biggest mistake that you can make. A lot of this is like a learned skill. So it's like, focus on what you do know until you learn the skills to try a different sort of strategy. The second thing I was going to say is actually, it's like a mistake I made that I don't believe in regret. So I actually would not prefer my career to go any other way than it has already gone. But when I was younger, I was at a company and I was in support, and I wanted to switch to customer success. So I had applied for a business development role, and I feel like I didn't handle that conversation well because my boss's response, and he was a really cool dude, one of my favorite people that I've worked with. My boss's response was, "I don't think you want this sales role." And what I tell my clients is own your narrative. The worst thing you want is for someone to tell your story to you. And now, like when I look back on that, I knew exactly why I wanted a sales role, and I would articulate that much better. I think that if I had articulated it well, then my founder at the time, who I said was a really nice guy, would have found some learning opportunities in a way that for me to transition that fit the way the company was operated. But I just went around it like, I went about it so crazy that I stopped myself from succeeding in that area. So I think it's really important to really understand your story and be able to tell it in the best possible way so that no one else ends up telling it for you.
Anybody else have any? Those are great, great tips. Kai, anybody else have anything to add?
I would add that in order to make your journey successful, make sure that you're posting with intent, right? So there's an objective with every post. It's not about just posting because you need to post or because you need to be consistent, right? Like it's not about sharing just because. It's about sharing things that actually add value to the community. So and not making it about you, as Berto has mentioned in the past. It's about what you can add to your own network. And when you are making sure that every communication that you do, whether it's an article, whether it's a post or a video, has value, then you know that you're on the right track.
Awesome. Anything else, Bertil?
I love what Kara said about to own the narrative, because this is something that really resonates. To your point, Erica and Andrew, don't post for the sake of posting. Make sure that there is value for your audience, even if your audience are a few people, but regardless, if you have 15,000 people who are following you like Andrew, or if you have a much less like me, just make sure that whenever people are spending time reading your content, it adds value, and it helps to open up to something else. And again, back to what we discussed, I think the key word here is to be authentic, like being genuine and authentic with your community, and eager to give, because it is a wonderful community.
Awesome. Thanks for those answers, and thanks for the question, Anna. We have a LinkedIn Live question from Hitesh. I was recently approached by a professional content creator for associating with me for creating customer success content on LinkedIn. I've been posting regularly about various aspects of CS on LinkedIn, and my posts have been doing well. I want to ask, is taking help of such a professional content creator for developing your personal brand really effective? Has any one of you thought about this or taken such services for yourself? I've tried this before. The problem, it's not easy. First of all, you have a voice, and you're basically trying to get somebody else right in your voice. The other thing is, it's not a set it and forget it type of thing. You need to sit with that individual, come up with a set of topics, talk through what it is you're thinking about, the approach that you want to take towards writing it. And then once they've produced something, you're going to go in and you're going to want to, you never let somebody just blindly post stuff for you. That is just a huge mistake. I worked for a company once where I had a CEO who had somebody writing for them, and they wrote something incredibly inappropriate. And it was posted on the website, and we got a huge backlash because of it. So while these people are trying to sell you on their service, it's not set it and forget it, right? It's a lot more complicated than that. And even if you decide to hire somebody to do this for you, it's going to take a good 9 to 12 months of you going back and forth with that person before you start feeling good. From my experience, before you start feeling good about what they're writing for you. So I would approach that with caution, especially if you're already generating some good content yourself. That's my experience. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Have not had that experience before, but I definitely agree with you on that, Andrew. Like when this is kind of like me writing for CS Insider as well, like all of these newsletters that I've been writing about. There's always someone who's reviewing my content and then reaches back out with changes, and I need to make sure that whatever I'm writing keeps my voice, right? And if you're going to be working with someone who will be helping you with the content that you're creating, you need to make sure that your voice is still there and it doesn't feel like it's someone else's content instead of being yours. So I guess definitely agree with you on that.
Exactly.
I would say as well, what's your goal? Like, what are you looking to achieve? Like, I think being associated with a thought leader benefits everyone, including the others. Writing together, having conversation benefits, but again, it's related to your goal. Are you looking to be known? Are you looking to generate revenue out of this post? Like, what are you looking to achieve? And how much are you ready to give away of your content and your authenticity and personal brand for those goals? At the end of the day, it's really about that. Is how much you really how much you're willing to give away to go to your goal outside of your comfort zone. How many Saturday evening will you spend at home writing this content and give a time with your family and friends for that? How much dedicated you are.
Yeah. Kai, anything to add? Or are you good?
I really agree with you, Andrew. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Woohoo! She agreed with me. All right. We might get through all of our questions today. This is great. Thank you again, Hitesh from LinkedIn, for that question. The next one comes from Megan. Megan asks, I've been a CSM in InsurTech, so I'm insurance technology for 5 years, but never very active on LinkedIn. What would be a good first step to start to share my experience? Kai, jump on it.
I don't know what your current LinkedIn community looks like, but I would say if it's not already filled with a bunch of folks in your industry that you're trying to interact with, you might want to just start making a bunch of connections and then interacting with other people's content. As Bertil has said this entire webinar, which is really, really important. You have to give before you get. Yeah, and so I think engaging with other folks' content, making yourself known, putting out some good content, it means that when you put out content, then you'll have a set of people who are then going to want to interact with your stuff. So I think before you start posting original statuses and expecting engagement, you have to start engaging with other people.
And so go through trade rags, go through, share things that are already out there, provide your opinion, read something, provide your opinion, share that with that community.
And join LinkedIn groups that I found that a lot of LinkedIn groups, especially for customer success, have a really lively conversation pattern. So there are people in there every day just chatting. And I think you want to get involved in those.
Or communities like Gain, Grow, Retain, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're having those discussions.
Exactly.
One thing I would love to add is, I don't remember the name of this movie, but when you we say ABC, always be closing. But when you're in customer success,
Glenn Ross, it's one of my favorite movies.
ABC, always be closing, but in customer success is ABC, always be connecting. And one thing that, if back to your question, if you're looking to build this personal brand, if you're looking for a first step on LinkedIn, to Andrew and Carol's point, share what you agree with and make sure to always connect and credit the people, the organization that have provided this content. As I like to do, just share your top 3 takeaways and why they are important and the next steps. And to Andrew's point, open up to the community. What do you think? When you start, no one's going to answer, or tag me. I would love to engage and connect with you, but don't be worried about having no answers. It will happen. I guarantee that. But most important is to take this first step.
Excellent. Anything to add, Erica, or should we move on to these last 3 questions?
Yeah. I definitely agree with what Kai mentioned, and this is part of what I've shared before on this webinar as well. It's connecting with people, interacting. It's one way, but then there's this other way where you can start by sharing your own experience on your day-to-day work. Did anything challenging happens during your day? Did you have a win with whatever experience you have on your day-to-day? Find out those things that you think would be valuable to share with others, or things that you think some people could benefit from or learn from that. And just think about your day and then write those ideas of things that you would like to share, and then devote some time to work on those posts and then share and see what other people are commenting on, so you can take it from there. But talking about your day-to-day it's super helpful when you're getting started.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Megan. We got 3 left. Let's see if we can get through them. So quick answers for this. Laura asks, and thank you for waiting, Laura. I know you've been waiting for a while here. Looking back on your journey to create your professional brand, what are some things you wish you knew before you started? So let's take one from each of you. Kai, start. What do you got?
You're allowed to be strategic about your own career. It doesn't have to just fall into your lap. You can make things happen.
Awesome. Erica, what do you got?
What are some things I wish I knew before I started? I guess the different type of ways that you can post and see which one has better effect when doing so. Like if you're going to be publishing, I don't know, infographics or videos or resharing posts, for example. LinkedIn has its own algorithm, I guess, in a way where some things work better than others. So one of the things that I would definitely recommend is give it a try to everything or every type of different posts that you can make out there, so you can learn which ones work better and start producing more content of the ones that are working versus the ones that are not working. So
do some A/B testing.
Exactly. Yeah. A/B testing is definitely something that I would recommend. Play with polls, play with posts, play with infographics, videos, and any type of try them all and see which one works better. And once you figure out which ones are the ones that are giving you more impact, continue to work on that, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Bertil, anything to add?
I would say embrace failure.
Okay.
Like just own it and wear it as a badge of honor.
So important. And quite frankly, that's an important skill to be able to have when you're a customer success manager, which, by the way, at some point in the next couple of days, I will post my sandwich experience, which talks about embracing failure. Let's see. Sally asks, Kai mentioned telling your story to control your narrative when opportunities arise. For those breaking into CS, what is one thing we can convey in interviews to stand out? How can we show we are in control of our narrative with our answers, questions, etc., with a hiring manager?
I think like you have to practice telling your career story. I think when people sit down and they go, tell me about yourself, first of all, that's, as a hiring manager, that's just a horrible question, but people ask it a lot. And I think that trips people up in interviews. So that's a time for you to pitch yourself. And it can be an opportunity instead of something that trips you up. So if you're ever just asked to like talk about yourself, just have your brand down in 1 to 2 sentences. This is who I am. This is what I've done. And this is what I'm like looking to do. And I think that that's the best way to like, to tell your story is to figure it out and own it at the time you have to like chat about it.
I would say think outside the box. Never lie. Think outside the box. What is being asked of you on this job description? Identify your strength. Even if it's not related to customer success, it's such a broad topic that you have already been in the situation at some point and use that as an example. And so really think outside the box and meet halfway the interviewer about specific deliverables.
I also think you need to explain to them, especially that there's so many things. If you have been in any sort of role where you're interacting with people, there's a way to relate that to customer success. We have plenty of people that have gone through our programs and have gotten jobs in customer success that come from backgrounds in teaching, that come from backgrounds in logistics, that come from backgrounds. I got people that come out of hospitality. A lot of people come out of hospitality. It doesn't say customer success on their title or on their resume, but that's what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also look at people's backgrounds in terms of transferable skills, and that's how you should think about it. I think someone had actually mentioned that earlier, that they were a CSM at heart. And I love that. I think it's when I was fighting with my blinds. And I think that that's where you want to focus in on those transferable skills. Like if you know what a CSM does and you've done it before, you've done those duties without the title, you can effectively talk to it.
Do you all have another minute? We have one last question from Sydney, and I would love to get an answer for her because she has been sticking around here waiting for us. Sydney asks more of a tactical question. Everyone mentioned consistency of value-added content. What are your strategies to queuing up and planning content? How much time should I be looking to dedicate to building a good brand just to manage my own expectations on a level of effort?
I want to just say this as someone who is not the best at content production. Last year, I did my best when I set a realistic goal of 1 blog post per month and then spent the month marketing and chatting and engaging around that 1 blog post. My goal for next year is 2 a month. And so every 2 weeks, I'm going to produce a blog post. I really think it's personal. It depends on how much time you have. Like this year, I had no time to write. I joined a company as the first employee and I've been nonstop and I just built a team. So now I have an opportunity. But like, if you don't have the time to like edit video, which takes a lot more time than, you know, a lot of folks make it look like, you have to give yourself some grace and be like, okay, what do I actually have time to do? And then I say, pick a day that you're going to sit down and like do stuff and stick to it.
Carve time out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, carve time out and create a Google sheet or a Google Doc with a list of topics and just keep adding to it, right? And as you go through your day, and then carve time out of your week to just focus on content creation. It's how I do it as well.
Back to Andrew's sandwich comment, I'm sure he's carrying a little notebook in his pocket, felt the experience, wrote it down, sandwich story, customer success, and then allocated an hour to do it.
I use this. When I was driving back from getting my sandwich, I recorded my experience. So now I can transcribe it and I can create a post from it. Make it as easy as possible. Reduce the friction. Make it as easy as possible for you to take what you're thinking and get it into something, store it into something, so you can then go back and create your content. Erica, anything else to wrap things up?
Yeah, I believe that's a really great strategy to get started. That's exactly what I did myself as well. Like every time that I was on a call with a customer and was after finishing the call with a customer, I had an idea that came to my mind about, hey, this would be something that would be really interesting to write about. Every time that happens, I open up my iPhone, open up my notes, write the topic that I thought would be of interest for later elaborating on that. Then over the weekends, I would dedicate, 2 to 3 hours, for example, to dedicate through all of those topics that I wrote on my notes section on my phone, and then started elaborating on those, creating at least one per week. And as Kai mentioned, just make sure that you put a goal that's realistic to you. So you do not say, hey, I'm going to be posting 3 to 5 times per week, and then not being able to achieve that because it's a hard goal, right? Yeah. So just start small and then work from there.
Exactly. Start small, work from there. Exactly. Mm-hmm. All right. We're at the end of the webinar. I think it went well, but it's not what I think. It's what all of you think. So here's a great way to start your branding exercise. Let us know by posting your feedback on LinkedIn. So get on LinkedIn, talk about your what you learned on this. Tag us, tag Success Coachings, tag any of my absolutely wonderful guests who I want to thank for an amazing conversation and for spending time with us, sharing their thoughts, ideas, their best practices. One final note, great CSMs know that they don't have all the answers, but they know where to get them. That's why we created this CSM Mastermind series, to harness the knowledge and experience of the community to help everyone improve. We hope you got something out of this discussion. We'll see you at our final event for 2021. Just a few weeks from now, we had to adjust because people are checking out for the holidays. So now on December 8th, we'll be talking about best practices for customer success etiquette. Until next time, have a great rest of your day, week, and month. For those celebrating next week, enjoy what will hopefully be a more normal Thanksgiving for everybody this year. Stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.